I am. Okay. I tried to make a video a little while ago. Not today, but it was closer to the new moon, so I'm thinking that was probably the reason why I had tried to make a video and just wasn't feeling it, so we'll see what happens with this one. Again, things speeding up real fast to the point where I don't know. Sometimes it feels almost as though saying anything at all is pretty pointless, but then, it kind of goes like this. It goes like, when it's up here, it feels like saying stuff is pointless, and then it comes back down here, and then you kind of compare the two. It's almost like it's almost like little mini ascensions where it's like I feel like got up here, and then you can kind of see that everything just is what it is, and that it's all good. It's all good, and trying to manipulate it in some way or try to, really do anything is pretty futile, but that's a perspective. And then when you come back down here, when your energy kind of goes like this, it oscillates, things come into separation a little bit more, and it seems like, there's like a compassionate factor that comes in and kind of urges you to sort of share, the different perspectives as a means of trying to, not even trying to, but as a means of providing an opportunity for, certain seeds to grow. So, another one of the issues that I'm sort of running into, it seems, is as the frequencies go higher, it's like the resolution of the pictures, and these are just like ways to kind of explain it. The resolution of the pictures that I'm seeing are going up. So it's like, trying to explain what you're seeing on, a new computer screen versus what you're seeing on one of the first computer screens. You're trying to take little blocks and put them in such a way that sort of reflect what you're seeing, but there's no real, it's like the words themselves aren't complete, so they can really only kind of take stabs at what it is that you're trying to express. At the same time, it seems, that the ones who hear it, since the energy is all coming from the same place, it's only really a reminder of yourself. So it's like when you hear it, it's almost like it should decode within you. So saying something and somebody might hear it, and it just sounds crazy or it means nothing to them because it's probably not really for them, or maybe only a certain piece of it or whatever. But as much as you'll be able to get of it is more of how far you're willing to look inside yourself, I guess. That sounds kind of cliche, so I don't even like saying things like that because it's like people become numb to certain phrases. Like these one-line phrases like all this stuff and all, this should be powerful things, but because they've sort of saturated, the spiritual market with all these types of things, people just become numb to the effects of what they really stand for and what they really mean. And this sort of comes down into symbols. I don't even really know what I'm talking about in this video now that we'll see what happens, but I don't know how long my memory lasts either, but we'll see. Symbols, someone can look at a symbol. I think might have said something similar to this in one of my other videos, but someone could look at a certain symbol and someone could say to you, tree. Okay, tree, that's what's up. And what a tree means to one person might be something completely different to what a tree means to somebody else. even though you may be referring to a certain symbol as in a tree. Okay, tree. Well, what type of tree? You know, and then each tree has a certain set of genetics. And even within the same species of tree, no two trees are the same. And then even if you did have two trees with the same genetics, where are they on the timeline? Are they just a seedling, or are they big, or whatever? So you see that there's a lot of depth, an infinite amount of depth to even one thing. So trying to explain a multitude of things, you know, it gets pretty, I don't know, pretty inexplicable. But, you know, when I find myself in certain times, I feel, you know, maybe I should try to share certain things. So in this, I guess I'll try to, well, I won't try. I will say something about something. But what is that something? Okay. This, and we'll see how this goes, but the picture I'm looking at in my head, it just seems like, it's like the higher you go with something, the less of a market there is for it. You know? Like, there's a whole bunch of people living, you know, kind of paycheck to paycheck who, you know, eat McDonald's and do a whole bunch of things that are just very popular or very, you know, crude, very inefficient, and from a certain perspective, destructive. As you refine and purify yourself, it kind of goes up to a point where you become more like the one. So when it's down here, you have the many, and the many are doing all this crazy shit. And then as you go up, you find less and less people who are trying to hear that shit. You tell someone who, you know, is indulging in a whole bunch of nonsense that all is self and, you know, that everything is right here and you can do all these things and all this, you know, shit, they'll just, they won't hear you. They'll just be like, well, at best, they'll be like, well, that sounds good. That sounds good. Even people in church, you'll tell them, oh, yeah, da-da-da-da-da, and, you know, the Holy Spirit, like, just all, yeah. People will think you're crazy. So, even when I'm making videos, I gotta sort of, you know, be, at least, I don't really try, because, you know, I kind of, like, in the videos, I kind of set an intention to not really say anything that I really shouldn't be saying, because there is a certain level of truth to, you know, casting pearls before swine and all like that. Not saying anybody's watching is swine, but it's all relative. So, and even with the people that are around me, I realize, you know, I really can't force, you know, anything. I really can't force anything, and it really comes down to how hungry are these beings for, you know, and I even realize it about myself. How hungry am I for, you know, higher and higher levels of so-called truth, which is really just relating more and more things back to the one. How much symmetry can you see? How many opposites can you, how many paradoxes can you, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess satisfy. I don't know. Or never mind. But if you're satisfied with what you're doing in life, like if you're satisfied with, you know, working a 9-to-5 and, you know, saving money for retirement and all these things, what you have no use for. At best, your God is something that you deal with after you die. That's it. It's not something that's really here now. It might be superficially like, oh, I'm going to go to church and give my 10% and hope that I get, you know, better opportunities in life and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, not really like that. And the more you, it's like the same thing like with America. The economy goes down the more you outsource things outside of your own country. So the more things that you experience in life that you label as an outside force, that you label as something that is affecting you in some way, something that is causing you to do something, the weaker you become. So you know, someone walks by you and they say, oh, and actually this kind of leads into something I was gonna say. I'll just say it. That movie Southpaw, and I don't know who's gonna feel me in this or who saw this movie or whatever, but I went to go see that movie. It kind of happens this way with the universe. The universe is a real funny character. But I was just going through a lot of, I guess, like clarification or just purifying or whatever. It's just that day was real high energy day for me, and I happened to go see that movie. And maybe it was just because I was in a certain state of mind that I was able to pick up certain things, or maybe the movie was just like that. I don't know, but on the surface, when I look back, it doesn't really seem like that. It seems like, you know, you have to really pay attention to what's going on. But just a couple of things about that movie. And I also don't really necessarily spoil it. Oh, fuck it, I don't care. In that movie, this boxer, he's on top of the world, basically. He's on top of the world, and in the sense that he lives in heaven, he lives in a multi-million-dollar house, has a really, you know, good wife, has, you know, has a daughter, has all these things, and he's the champion. He's like 43-0, all like this. So he basically is on top of the world. And then one of these little lower beings, another boxer, basically he has to look up at him, basically, you know, energetically has to look at him because he's a champion. This dude is really, like, relatively unknown. But he has to, like, you know, look at him and be like, hey, man, let me fight you, you know, you haven't been hit by a real man, blah, 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 all like this, and dude's just like, all right, whatever, you know what I'm saying? At the same time, I won't try to make it too long. Long story short, dude has some type of, you know, charity event or something, that other boxer happens to be there, and as a dude walking out with his wife, other dude starts talking shit like, oh yeah, do what I gotta do, fuck your wife before you let me fight, or what, I'm gonna take your, he says some shit like, I'll fuck your wife, what am I gonna do first, fuck your wife and then take your belt, or take your belt and then take your wife, which one am I gonna do first? And his wife, as they're walking out, she's like, honey, just let it go, it's nothing, like, he's just some dude talking shit because he wants your attention, he wants your, you know, you have all this light, he wants this, you know, energy, he wants this opportunity to be in the ring with someone who's the champion, he wants you to look at him and engage with him. And they say pride goeth before a fall, so he's basically in heaven and he has some dude in the lower realms talking shit like, oh, blah blah, and so he stops because of pride being one of the 7 deadly sins, stops, turns around, and then basically they start fighting. And in the mix of all the chaos, the other boxer, one of his, like, people, basically pulls out a gun, fires a shot, which happens to hit the champion's wife. So his wife dies, obviously, and he just starts to spiral down. And everything. And realistically, from what I could tell, he had certain opportunities to kind of pick himself back up. Like, he was right here, his wife died, he fell right here, and he could have started to pick himself back up and maybe even bounce back and use that momentum to even go higher, you know. But he started to spiral down. He started, you know, start drinking and, you know, start trying to, you know, get violent and do all these things. He ends up losing his daughter as well. So now he has to go through, he basically falls into hell where he's living. He went from a multi-million-dollar house to living in like a 300 square foot apartment, doing all these things. He had went through a process where he had to humble himself, basically to the point where he was scrubbing toilets and doing all these things, and to humble himself before this other trainer who was basically more like the mentor and like that master. When it's like when the student is ready, the master will present themselves. The master comes into your life when you're at a point where you're able to receive him or her. So the movie was real deep, but I just don't know. They don't really make it so obvious. What was the point of me even saying that? I don't know what I said before all that shit. But anyways, I will say that this, maybe I'll call this video like Twin Flame and Reproduction or some shit like that, because it seems like it's going that way. Okay, so basically, when he's in heaven, and throughout the movie, and part of the movie, he even told his daughter, you know, my wife was the one who basically made all the decisions. Like, my wife was the one who basically kept me grounded. She was my grounding. She was one who kind of, like, you know, gave me the perspective of what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And if, for example, if you would have listened to her and just walked out, everything would have been fine. He would have still been the champion. All these things would have happened and blah, blah, blah. He went on with his life. At the same time, maybe he wouldn't have got the opportunity to grow. So it's all, grace and all like that. But if you take something like that, really, see, the shit, it just goes so deep that I just don't really, it's like I look at a certain layer, but the farther I go into the layer, the more I'm gonna have to explain. So it's like, how far do I want, like, based on how much time I have in this video and all like this. But I'll just say, even within my own growth, what I realize is your twin flame is, from a certain sense, depending on whether you're coming more from a masculine or a feminine perspective, because your perspective has to at least be, slightly tilted for you to have an experience. And then what your balance would be like, you guys could be like, 50.0000001, you know what I'm saying, like balance, like almost completely balanced, but that 0.00001, may belong to your other component. So you guys are both, very well balanced, masculine and feminine, but maybe one is that balance, so you can see yourself in the experience of the other person. But when you get out of separation, new things start to come to light. For example, I have a twin flame, and I used to kind of like laugh at the term in a sense, or kind of just be like, think of what kind of other people think about it or whatever, just kind of exploring certain things. I come to realize that if I have a twin flame in this moment, it's none other than the earth. It's none other than the earth. And what else could it possibly be? I mean, what else would I want it to be? What else makes any type of sense? I could say, okay, this one specific female being, she seems so awesome and blah, blah, blah. But she's a reflection of what? What makes her so beautiful in my eyes? She would have to reflect the earth. That's what would have to happen. For me to see the beauty, would have to reflect the earth. So, but no one being can encompass, the whole earth, obviously. Just like I, as one being, in this dimension, at least in this set of frequencies, can't really, I don't really want to say I can't do nothing, because, whatever, but I ain't even trying to limit myself like that. But just for perspective, it would be more difficult to try to express the whole earth within one being. So when you can kind of express the whole earth through a set of beings, then you can become more detailed and more refined. And then as you see that, you can take those little subtleties. As you kind of walk up the enlightenment ladder, the things that become the most important are the most subtle things. So the things that are there, like, right in your face and all like this, those are the things you start to ignore. They just have less value to you. Like all the crazy stuff going on. It's like, it's all reflection, obviously, as above, so below. So it's still something to take heed to, or something to kind of, use as a reference point. But for me, I'm really just starting to realize, that the twin flame is just the earth. It's real simple. And, the children, like, I mean, I don't want to say like it, but like my children are the children of the earth. Like, who else could they be? Even if I were to have a physical child, would it be more my child, or would it be more the earth's child? Can anybody really have a child that's not really the earth's child if everyone is really made up of the earth elements from dust to dust? So everything that happens and all is by the grace of the earth, and then everything that happens on the earth is by the grace of the universe and all like that. So when you go up and down, like through your cycles and all like this, and you start to pay attention to what you're seeing, and like I said, it just becomes more subtle, and you just, like, things. I don't know how to explain it, because I'm trying to like put myself in other people's shoes. But that's the problem with these videos, is I don't really know exactly what to say, because I'm not really feeling somebody else. I don't really know where they're coming from, so it's more difficult to kind of feel, what I should say, or what's gonna, you know, how to use the energy efficiently. So I try to, you know, put like a broad ping out there and kind of see what comes back. And I want to take it, you know, as deep as I can, but I don't know if it's pointless or not. So, yeah, what was I saying? Something about something. Yeah, so the earth is my ground. So I can, you know, by the grace of the earth, or by the grace of the feminine principle, by the grace of that power that she allows me to wield, I'm able to travel and have experience and do things and learn about myself. So there it's like she's like the grounding thing. It's like I could sit there and like, it's like the astronaut has like the little cord that's connected him to the ship. He can go out and explore and do all these things, but you know, how do you have a reference point, or how do you have some type of, you know, feeling of existing if you don't have something that brings you back, something that, you know, you give value to? And what more to give value to than something so beautiful as a planet like the Earth? What more grounding? It's like what can really bring a man to, you know, his knees, or what can really bring, you know, what can really do away with the pride, what can really do away with all these things, is really the feminine principle. And like I said in another video, pretty much everything the man does out here subconsciously is for the female. Really, it's a dance. So they're dancing together, and that's sometimes during the cycle the male takes the lead in the dance, and then sometimes in the cycle the female takes the lead in the dance. And sometimes the male don't like that shit. Sometimes if he's been, you know, leading the dance and he thinks he knows what's up, and the female comes time and like they hit a different tone in the vibration, or the song changes, you know, and that song could take, you know, 20,000 years, but when that song changes, he doesn't want to start. He doesn't, his rhythm, he's not in tune, so his rhythm isn't matching the tones of the universe, so he's not dancing correctly because he's on the old shit. It's like they play that chorus over and over again. You think you know what's up, but then it's time for a new song where it's more of a feminine song. So you're supposed to humble yourself and yield to the female, and then the female takes the lead and then shows you a new thing. So yeah, and that's sort of what's kind of happening. As the feminine is, it's like the masculine doesn't really want to give up the authority or give up the power or whatever, and it's not so much as even the masculine and the feminine change. It's just the perspective changes. The masculine is still the masculine, the feminine is still the masculine. They still do the same things. It's just the perspective that comes with it, where you think that this one is, you know, on top versus the other one goes on top. You know, if like, you know, you're doing what you do, you know what I'm saying, in the bedroom or whatever, sometimes you're in this position and sometimes you're in that position. You know, it just is different experiences. And that's really what it is. And I'm realizing more and more, you know, that everything, the word speaking is a masculine thing. And what you say is, it's like you're fertilizing the earth with your words. You're fertilizing the earth with your thoughts. You're fertilizing the earth. It's like the earth herself, you know, has the nations and has the, you know, the power and all like that, but without the structure, without the DNA code, without, you know, that type of template, without that type of order, then nothing can really be experienced or seen or built. So, you know, and the more you get in tune with yourself as a male, you'll start to see that working for the sake of attaining a female is futile, and working for the sake of controlling a female is futile, because you're just working to control yourself. You're working to attain yourself, but in a forced way, not in a free flowing way. That's when you come into the fear-based stuff. So yeah. Yeah. So I notice, you know, human vessels are able to hold a vast amount of energy. They're able to process a vast amount of energy. And the ones who are around you, I see where it's like this is a whole nother thing. I don't even know how I want to go into this, but um your I'll say it like this, I guess. Your environment, in a sense, is your masculine principle. So you're giving fuel to your environment as the feminine principle it gives, and then the masculine, you know, receives. That shit. Okay. Um. So your outside environment is a reflection of your inside environment. So if you find yourself, if you find yourself in a position, you know, where you are, and who knows if this video is gonna cut out. If it does, then you know, we'll see what's up. But yeah, from a certain perspective, you can say, you know, you can separate yourself from your environment or just kind of, you know, but it gets a little muddy that way. So we'll just say your environment is a reflection of your internal environment. So when you find yourself in a position where you're surrounded by all these cell phone towers, this is myself included at the moment, you know, and you're finding yourself in a position where you're on some type of schedule where you have to be somewhere at a certain time, or you know, you're constantly looking at the time, or you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to bed at this time, or I'm gonna wake up at this time, or da 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 da. Or you're not your own master. You're not your own master. Someone's mastering over you. And time is one of those biggest things. And this was something that I was going to talk about in the video. Actually, I don't know if I was going to talk about it. It was just something that I was thinking about, and maybe I got to talk about. But this is one of them things that I'm not really sure if it's one of those things I'm supposed to say. But I'll just say, you know, as far as the time thing goes, it's possible to collapse time. Like it's like, you know, time flies when you're having fun. And then when you're in a low state, it seems like it's taking forever. Well, if your whole reality is, you know, a high frequency, eventually you get to a point where it just kind of touches, and you're able to it's like you're in your present moment, but it's easy to look back at your other moments and be like, okay, I see. And then you can, from that information, because it's like it grows a certain way, it's like you're able to kind of see where you're headed. You can kind of look, and you can kind of see, like, so you're, in that way you start to master time. You start to master, it's like that's a form of time travel. Like, you're able to look at the past and be like, okay, and then you look at the future and be like, okay. And then so you're kind of like watching it. It's like watching a movie, but you just gain the ability to rewind and fast forward. Yeah, but that's some other stuff that, you know, whatever. So, environment. Okay. Now, I don't know if I want to even get into this, but this is part of the reproduction thing. And the reproduction thing is probably, if not the deepest thing that you can speak about the reproduction principle. And when it's like there's a certain seed, there's a certain energy that looks for a certain type of soil to grow in, but it can only grow in the most pure soil. So what I found is, as far as the sharing, and, you know, because there's that urge to share. Like, I tweeted something like, you know, enlightenment is sort of like sex drive. It's like, as you start to get, you know, gain a higher frequency, it's like what you want to share it. That's what you want to do. It's a natural thing. Like, as a kid, you get a new toy, you want to, you know, take it somewhere and be like, hey dude, look at this new toy I got, you want to play with it with me, blah blah. It just makes the experience more fun. You get a new like PS4 or some shit, it makes it more fun to have somebody come over and you guys can play together. It is just is what it is. It's natural. So it works that way with all things. Is this the nature of the universe? Is sharing and enjoying together, and that's why the one splits the one up into different things so it can experience itself and love itself. Yeah, so just kind of on a side note, something that I'm recognizing is it seems there's I don't want to necessarily say that because it's not really true, but I'll just say that pure, and we could say even hotter seeds that burn away all other plants, need pure and pure soil. If there's a whole bunch of other plants, growing in that soil, which could be good for this state of consciousness, but it's not good for this state of consciousness, and this state of consciousness has burnt off at this stage. So, when you're down here, that it's like when you're down here in the beast state of consciousness, eating meat and doing all the things is okay. You know what I'm saying? When you get up here, you've burnt off that state of consciousness, so you don't eat meat anymore. It's just something you realize eating yourself is crazy. Like, you're killing yourself. It doesn't make any sense. So it's the same thing. That's what I'm realizing with people is it's to say certain things to them, or to, to give them something, or to provide them an opportunity to receive, for them to take it would be akin to burning a piece of themselves up. Like, a part of them would cease to exist. And so it becomes a little difficult when you're speaking to people, because you don't necessarily want to burst their bubble. You know what I'm saying? They're living in such a happy life. Like, why? Like, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? If that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. So then it comes back to discernment and all those type of things. And, that's just part of the lessons and things that I have to learn as, myself and all like that is when to do this and when not to do this. When to, all like that. So, yeah. Where to go. I don't even know what I was talking about. The earth. Okay. So, okay. Well, okay. This is sort of maybe I don't know, a weird topic or whatever, but it has much to do with the reproduction. What you eat obviously is excreted, okay? And most people consider what is excreted to be waste, or they consider it to be something not necessarily negative, but something like, ugh. You know what I'm saying? Something that, you wouldn't pick it back up and put it back in your mouth, because it's just kind of like, ugh. You know what I'm saying? So, recognize this concept happens all the time. If you find yourself in a position where you're constantly doing the same thing, it's like, so you receive something, you ate something. Maybe you, like, for example, you saw a commercial on TV for, some fast food place, so that's what you received, so you're going to eat this, and then it comes back out, you excreted it. But you didn't necessarily, energetically, you excreted it as a experience, as a manifestation. You're able to see the experience is your excretion, what you've taken in and what you're giving out. So because the experience didn't start as the experience started as something smaller, not necessarily smaller, but something else, as like a thought, or a piece of knowledge or whatever. And this same concept applies to everything. So if you find yourself in a position, even if it's something good, even if it's something like, I was watching, this is just kind of an interesting, coincidence. There was I had seen a video with Muji where there's this dude, he came up and he's like, Muji, all my life, or for like the past like 15 years, or it was a long time, I've been like a professional healer, like an energetic healer. And I realize now that by that when people, when I heal people, and it does work, but what I realize is the only thing it leads to is them needing more healing. So at what point, so this is speculation, but I'll just say um, so he said, when I stop healing, I still heal people. I still heal people, but it's not my purpose. It's not what I identify myself as. I don't identify myself as this healer. I don't identify myself. And life has changed for me because of that in a good way. I've expanded and all like this. And Muji was just like, da 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 da, blah, blah, blah. Like, hell yeah, nigga, that's what's up. Like, that's real talk. Yeah, Muji's awesome, man. He's so, like, the precision. Like, I was noticing that, like the precision with which he speaks, it's like people may try to get him to veer off course and come ask him some crazy question or whatever. And it's not like he's not able to veer off his course and talk about all these interesting ideas and concepts and symmetries and symbols and all these things and what they mean to the self and how they apply to the self. But he realizes that once you get to a certain point, all that becomes redundant. It'll just naturally come up. And that's not really what he's there to really talk about. He's really there to talk about, are you really ready to find yourself or not? So, and it's a very small minority of people who really are, from my experience. So I say that just to say that, I had tweeted something that, when does helping the world, like helping the world is a symptom of understanding, not a purpose. When does it become something that is not a purpose? Like, you don't identify as a healer or as a doctor or as a lawyer or as a, even though these could be good careers where you're really helping people and all like this, but what it's like, what does it say in the Tao? It says, what is a good man but a bad man's teacher, and what is a bad man but a good man's job? So healing others is healing yourself. At what point do you say, I'm healed? At what point do you say, I'm healed? At what point do you start expressing healed in your field? Because when you are expressing healing, you are in a constant state of healing yourself, which is not a bad thing, is an awesome thing. Awesome thing. And I still express that within my own self. I gotta, make sure I don't indulge in too much craziness or, all like that. I gotta pay attention to what I receive and all like that. But at what point do you create and sustain an environment of healed? And when do you start to project that? Because really, that's the true foundation. That's the real organic way, is not to... The earth's purpose is not to heal. Healing takes place within the earth. But if you're trying to become a balanced being, to identify as one job versus another doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you're trying to become this, not trying to become the self, if you're trying to recognize the true self within inside yourself. So it's difficult to go to somebody who, is so passionate about anything, like let's just use that guy as an example. It would be difficult to go to somebody who is like a Reiki healer and be like, hey, this is all really, and they're aware of themselves, a certain aspect of themselves, like they're aware of the chakras and the energy centers and all these things. But this is an aspect, this is a step. When do you take the next step where that becomes redundant? When do you take the next step and be like, okay, I saw that as an aspect of myself. It's like you're like zigzagging up your path like this. But if you kind of get caught in a corner, you get caught in a corner of righteousness. So like, so there's like dun, 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 so light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. So you can kind of explore yourself like this. But when you get caught over here and you're like righteous, okay, I'm this Reiki healer, and I give these, my purpose is to, or I'm a yoga instructor, and my purpose is to get people